Hello, my name is Courtland Carson. I'm a student at the University of Southern Mississippi, and this is my presentation on Matt Abraham's Think Fast, Talk Smart Communication Techniques presentation. I'll first introduce who Matt Abrahams is. Matt Abrahams is a Stanford professor, a keynote speaker, a podcast host, and he's also the author of the book Think Fast, Talk Smart. In his presentation, Matt Abrahams provides the audience with several steps on how to overcome anxiety when you have to speak unexpectedly. The first step that he tells us to do is to greet the anxiety. From my personal experience, I get really nervous when I have to introduce myself to people, as in saying my name makes me physically cringe. So, taking his advice, what I need to do is not ignore those feelings of anxiousness, but to instead confront them and greet them. And to greet them, you can say things like, "This is me feeling nervous," or you can say, "I am stressed. I'm about to do something of consequence." Either way, you're acknowledging your own feelings because your anxiety is not there to harm you, it's actually there to help you. The next thing he tells us to do is to reframe the situation. What does this mean? This means that instead of viewing the act of introducing myself as a burden, as a chore, as something frightful, instead I should see it as an opportunity to connect and an exciting new adventure. Basically, this tip is about reframing your internal dialogue and your own perception of how you think the interaction is gonna go. The next step he tells us to do is to ask the other person questions. So if you're anything like me, you may have uncertainty after you do introduce yourself. You may feel like, okay, well, I said that, now what do I say? And to combat that, you may start excessively talking and not making sense because you don't really know where to proceed after you introduce yourself. Matt Abrahams tells us to ask the other person questions. This really reduces the chance for you to make any unnecessary blunders. I mean, what can go wrong with listening? The next tip he tells us to do is to use inclusive language when you are speaking to people. In the video presentation that he does, he kind of gives the example of when a person is presenting to people on a stage and they come out and they say, "Oh, I'm so excited to meet you." However, as they're saying that, they're like physically retreating into their own little shell because they're really nervous. And he also explains how when speakers are nervous, the audience is nervous too. So it's best to not be as formal with the interaction. You don't have to be as serious and by the book on every single thing. Do this to really just kind of get those nerves out of the way. The next tip he has for us is to stay in the present moment. People with anxiety, such as myself, we tend to either always be thinking about the next step, or we're always thinking about what the outcome of this is going to be, or we're trying to anticipate the other person's words before they're even done speaking. So instead of doing that, he basically tells us to count backwards from 100, do a light exercise, walk around the building, say tongue twisters. These are just things that really ground you and keep you out of your head before you have to speak to people. The next tip he offers, and I think it's probably one of the most groundbreaking, honestly, is that you can dare to be dull, which basically means you don't have to light up the room. You don't have to have this magnetic energy that just attracts people. You really don't. Somebody else can do it, and that's fine. But if you know that's not really who you are, you don't have to go out of your way to achieve that. I feel as if people that are used to being high achievers or type A personalities, you strive for greatness in everything except some situations don't require greatness. It's okay to just be a, be present. It's okay to just be boring sometimes, especially in social settings in which you aren't that comfortable. The next tip he has for us is to slow down and listen. And this is such an important tip for this speaking impromptu or just dealing with your everyday conversations. Slowing down and listening also has a direct relation to how you perceive time. So, for example, if you are always on the go, you're always on the move, you can portray the feeling that you're too busy for people. And if you're too busy for people, then you can't really listen to them effectively. So, taking time to listen and using the what, so what, now what approach really does give you a guide to follow to keep you interested. So, what that is basically is you say, what is this person saying to me? Why are they saying it to me? And what should I do now? So, that's an easy guide to follow. So that concludes my presentation of Matt Abraham's book and his thoughts on impromptu communication. I've linked his YouTube video to this slide, so you can check that out on your own if you want to. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope that you found this informational. So, thank you.